Right, today we want to look into how does our internal auditor exercise independence. So before we understand how does the internal exercise independence, we need to compare, or we need to understand what is an internal auditor, what is an external auditor. So first off, the internal auditor is an employee of the organization who reports to the management of the organization and has been employed for the implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of the internal controls of the organization. Right. So we are saying he or she is an employee. The management are coming up with the internal controls, right? So they need someone who's going to implement these internal controls, someone who's going to monitor these internal controls, and someone who's going to evaluate to what extent that they are safe, these internal controls. Then the external auditor reports to shareholders or to those who has been charged by governance, is employed on contractual basis, and is responsible for coming up with the truth, with an opinion on whether the financial statements are true and fair, and gives an opinion on the financial statements. The external auditor gives an opinion, right? As compared to the internal auditor, he gives a management report, right? So this internal auditor's management report, it does not have a structure. It's up to what the management requires at that moment in time that they expect the internal auditor to report. But compared to the external auditor's opinion, the structure is there. It is known. They follow certain standards towards how it is going to be prepared. So now we understand who is an external auditor and who is an internal auditor. We understand that the internal auditor is an employee of the organization who reports to management, giving them a management report about the implementation, monitoring, and the evaluation of the internal controls. Now, how does our internal auditor exercise independence? Number one, we are saying the auditor should, or the internal auditor should always report to the audit committee. We are saying this in reference to organizations where audit committees are available, right? We are saying an audit committee is independent of some of the activities that happen within the organization, although it is there as an advisory committee, right? So the auditor should report to that committee on the findings about the internal control setup. Then the auditor should always report to the highest of management. That is in the circumstances where the organization does not have an audit committee, right? The top management. That's where the auditor should always give report. Why? Because these managers are stewards. They're always interested in the improvement of the organization, since they are measured according to the performance of the organization, right? So they should always report. Then number three, must always adhere to the principles of professionalism. Number four, should always have adequate resources to exercise his duties. The auditor should not rely upon someone for these resources. Once there is a reliance, there's no longer what? Independence. So we are saying the auditor will be dependent on someone for the resources. So if the auditor is now dependent, he cannot give a fair view of the internal control systems of the organization. Then the auditor must also have unlimited access to organizational records. They should not be limited to what the auditor can access. They should not be limited to when the auditor should access these records. And there should not be any bureaucracy mayhem of how the auditor should access these records. Why? Because we are saying the auditor is to be independent at all times. Then the auditor should always exercise a higher degree of confidentiality, amongst other principles like independency, professional duty, technical standards, integrity, and objectivity. By confidentiality, we are just saying the auditor should always, should not share information about the organization with third parties, or secrets that the auditor would have found within the structures of the internal controls with anyone except with the management, because they are the stewards of the organization. The auditor must also be a member of the Institute of Internal Auditors. Why? Because we're saying the auditor should always have somewhere he or she reports to, somewhere he or she must be accountable to. That body will be responsible for that. Then, yes, we have safeguards that we have in terms of independence, but we are also saying there are limitations to how these safeguards work. Why? Because the auditor is an employee of the organization, right? Relying on the management for promotions, relying on the management for maybe motivation and so forth. So the auditor at times cannot criticize the system that the management has come up with. At the same time, the auditor, for him to maintain a good relationship, he or she will end up giving favorable responses to the management, because we are saying were employed by the management. The same management is responsible for your promotion. The same management is responsible for a good relationship with them. So, which means the auditor is reliant. So, as far as independence goes, well, there is a limitation to that. Thank you for this session.